Right. Just gonna share this out to a couple of groups pages of mine, and then we'll get started. I'm gonna talk about a few products that I've got a whole bunch of products in front of me. They've made for product orders for clients, and we're just going to go through them and talk a little bit more about them, how they can help you for all sorts of issues that people deal with, just to give you a bit more insight behind that, how they can help you. Let's put. I hope everyone's having a great day. Okay. Right, so for anyone that doesn't know, it's really holistic. We make energy products. And they're generally made with Tensor Technology and light technology. And so Tensor Technology is when wire, and particularly copper wire, um, is bent back on itself, put through a drill, and it's twisted, right? Um, as you can see with this tensor ring here, you can see that the wires all twisted. If we can get the zoom in on it, right? And then that wire, twisted wire, is cut to a specific measurement, which is called a cubit measurement, which is generally in the tensor technology or science of tensor technology is considered a sacred measurement. We could just call it a specific measurement. And that measurement then becomes a physical anchor to facilitate whether it's a static frequency or a bunch of frequencies or a spectrum of frequencies, depending on the scale that you're wanting to facilitate. A gentleman known as Slim Sperling that brought tensor technology to the masses, to humanity in the early 90s. He had two or three qubit measurements that he would make a lot of the tensor rings and AccuVac coils and products that he made based on those, and they were really generally static frequencies: 144, 177, which is the sacred and the lost, and then 188, which is the empowerment qubit. Now, the qubit measurements that Truly Holistic uses all their products with, you will not find them anywhere else because they were intuitively guided to me, which makes the Tensor Technology products that Truly Holistic provides quite unique because Slim had a whole lot of friends that psychic friends, and they could see auras, see energy. So he had the help of their discernment in the products that he was making. For example, the gentleman that brought through the lost qubit for him was a mathematician. Now, so he came from that place. Now, for me, it was more about the work I was doing with clients. I was already working with a lot of clients as a quantum intuitive healer all around the world about working on all sorts of things. And so my work is very much based on being intuitive, right? Being a medium, and the information, the downloads, the wisdom that I was getting. And that was really the way that these measurements came through because, yes, I was doing clearings on people, but I was wanting to create products that supported that client or that individual in between the times we'd have sessions, right? It became very clear to me that the things that we actively choose, our choices that we're making in every moment, every day, are directly connected to our wellness, our being, right? Our vitality. Um, and so I wanted to support that process for the client or the individual in between sessions. So Tensor Technology and making products was very much based on that ideal. And so I started to get intuitively guided specific measurements that are called qubit measurements that I had to make these products with. And obviously at the time, I'd never brazed, soldered, welded in my life. So I had to learn that. So it was a great creative endeavor for me in making all these products. Now, so my background in regards to why I make these products is quite different, quite unique to a lot of other people that makes Tensor Technology. And as I say, really, a lot of people will see, for example, this is a bracelet that I make. You can see that's twisted. This is a thicker gauge, an 8-gauge wire, and then we hammer it down. And a lot of people see this and they go immediately, oh, it's the copper. It's because it's copper. Now, we make this with silver. We've made it with brass before. So it's not a direct connection to copper. It's more about the technology. It's creating a tensor field, right? As I say, tensor technology is a science. And it's based on bringing through quantum energy. And the qubit measures that all these products facilitate is bringing forth more of your light, more of your consciousness. Now, light is a word that's referenced with the word consciousness, which is referencing you as a soul, right? Your energy. We could throw any of those terms into the conversation, right? Frequency, energy, soul, consciousness, light. So it's not about bringing someone universal light or energy that exists outside of them. No, it's bringing through more of their light. Because when we talk about things like ascension, which is connected to the purpose in you being here, is for you to be a true representation of yourself, to facilitate more of you. Because at the core of who you are, authentically and infinitely, you are an energy, and energy doesn't die. Energy transforms itself. Okay, so we know that obviously this rental or vehicle that we're going to use for a lifetime has an expiry on it. Can we change that so that you live a longer period of time, or perhaps get to a point where it doesn't expire? Yeah, for sure. But that has to be in line with the purpose you're here, right? That everything has purpose. And that starts to bring in the word awareness, which is connected to the word consciousness. So when we bring through more of your light, more of your energy, it's an energy that then is compatible to the body and allowing it to work at its highest potential. Actually, in sessions, right, we're doing clearings to clear away energy. Why? Because it's not your energy, it's energy that you're taking from things outside of you, and it becomes embodied. I love the word embodied because it means that we take other things' energy and then it gets embodied into the body, right? So it becomes part of your physiology, and all of a sudden it just scrambles the communication network of the body to work at its true potential, and it can't anymore. It gets congested, it gets occluded and blocked, which is illness. This is what we know as illness, is a congestion, obstruction, and blockage to flow. The body requires some flow, whether we look at the blood, whether we look at the lymph, whether we look at communication through the nervous system, digestive system, urinary system, every respiratory system. It's all about flow. So we're all about, teaching you how to facilitate your natural state, right, which is to bring through more of that light. But these products are very much training wheels to support that process for you. So these energetics, quantum energies, heart energies, let's bringing forth more of you, and this is what really Ascension's all about. So, for example, if I hold up this ring, right, which is twisted wire, and as I say, it's not about the copper, it's about the energies that are coming through this, because this becomes an anchor, a physical anchor, right? So we twist the wire, cut it to that specific measurement, because that's going to bring that allotted amount of frequencies or spectrum of frequencies, which we work on here at Truly Holistic. We're not interested in static frequencies because in every moment, what you're experiencing, it may mean you need different frequencies moment to moment, right? So, and because this facilitates more of your light, which is your soul, which is your intelligence, you can perceive this as a smart tool, right? What you're experiencing, the soul, your consciousness will facilitate the certain frequencies you need in that moment. And it could change moment to moment. So, for example, using tools that just have a specific static frequency just doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. That, for me, that's very, when we break parts down, not to see the whole anymore. It's compartmentalization, which is more mind. We want people more in the heart. The heart's about simplicity, and it's about facilitating your expansion, not becoming more compartmentalized and specific. We lose our way because we don't see the bigger picture. So, and then what we do is to create a closed loop, right? So we create a circle, for example, like this one here, right? So you can see that, it's different gauge wire they're used, right? So we've got 14 gauge here, I think, or 12 gauge, and then that's 10 gauge. And, you know, they look similar, right? Okay, one's thicker gauge than the other, but they bring through different energetics, right? So when we say that word qubit, which we say uses a specific measurement, it's bringing through frequencies which we can call energetics. Now, what you know as the human, energetics is genetics, right? So we're starting to touch upon DNA here and gene expression, which means a gene is switched on or switched off, okay? Now, of course, if you want to expand your horizons, right, to get at a limitation and look at what am I capable of, then we want the genes to be expressed, right, to be realized, to be available for you. This is what we're talking about when we get into these types of technology, because it's about what the body becomes programmed as. Because quite often in sessions we reference to the body as a computer. We call it an interface, okay? And just like our iPhone, right, which is again an interface, right? It's a mini computer, which can do amazing things, but it still requires a user to realize its potential. Okay, so you know the body here, right, has got potential, but the purpose or role of the body is a vehicle, a rental for an intelligence consciousness to extend its will through it, right? It's the user for that interface. Okay, so when we start to look at everything that we're trying to perceive in the world, whether it's including a health problem and trying to resolve it, we're so much on the physical, we're so much on the body, which is just the interface, when really our focus needs to be on what energetics am I facilitating through this vehicle, what intelligence or consciousness is driving it. That's where the answers are. This is why we, at Truly Holistic, we can firmly say that we work on the cause, you know, of the effects. We work on, to know the effects, we need to know the cause to the effect. Okay, to then change the effect, which is what we experience, whether it's a health problem or mental anguish or anger or whatever we're going through, right? We have to go to that level to change that. Otherwise, you know, I did a post the other day about mental illness, right? And you know, alongside, you know, cardiovascular disease, which is the number one killer, number two killer, cancer, you throw mental illness into that picture, right? It's everywhere. And for me, mental illness, right, and the mental health problems that we're generally seeing everywhere, why we see it everywhere, because we are program conditioned to perceive our reality using mentality. That's where the word mental comes from, which is a byproduct of the mind and its thoughts guiding steering our ship, essentially. And essentially everyone believes that that's the only discernment we have, and that's incorrect. But there's actually another option of discernment we can use that doesn't use mentality, which means we can't forge a mental illness if we don't use mentality in the way we perceive and process our reality. So I quite often say to my clients, right, especially the ones that are going through quite a bit in regards to mental health stuff, is that, what that teaches us, right? Because every experience that we have at the core of every experience, why we have experience to begin with, is to learn. There's a lesson at the heart of every experience. But if we get conditioned to start to compartmentalize again, which is from the mind, is that a good experience or is that a bad one, we miss out. We don't get to the heart of the experience to learn the lesson. Right? We need to be in the heart to get to the heart of the matter. Right? If we're up here, then we won't get to the heart of the experience and hence not learn the lesson. So, so therefore, why mental illness is so abundant is there's a clue there. And that is that the way that we've been taught and conditioned to perceive and process our life, our reality, doesn't support us. That's what that means. That's what that's showing. And what I did in this post was the difference between, because general conventional practices right now for people that are going through mental illnesses, whether it's depression, whether that's anxiety, panic attack, schizophrenia, bipolar, psychosis, all these ones, personality disorders, right, or split personalities, is to manage it. And managing it is working on the effect without knowing the cause. Right? It's saying to someone, you're going to manage it, but at the same time, you're going to continue using the same discernment method that uses mentality that actually promotes you eventually getting imbalanced mentally, which means a mental illness. Or you can look at what Truly Holistic's doing, and I'm giving you an opportunity because I don't see it anywhere else. I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet here, but I'm just saying it as it is. A new pathway of discernment that doesn't use mentality. Because the thing is, if you use mentality to perceive and process reality, you're most likely going to get mental health problems, mental illness problems. But if you don't use mentality, then that's the resolution of it. That's the prevention of it and the resolution of it. That's the cause to the effect. So, we that's where we work at it, right? And so when we talk about, a tensor ring, right? And we'll use this one here, right? It's not the copper, it's the fact that when we braze that together, it becomes a closed loop. That becomes a physical anchor for a column of light frequencies to go through it. Okay? Now, a lot of people will go, well, I don't see that light. Because, again, the way we've been taught and conditioned as the human is the seeing is believing. Right? But if we use science, I'm going to use science here. This is not even spirituality or consciousness stuff. This is science. Our visible sight is 0.0035% of the electromagnetic spectrum of light. Meaning, we see not even close to 1% of reality with our eyes. So if we were to look through life through a keyhole, we'd see more of life than we do with our using visible sight. So how can seeing be believing then with that stat? Okay. So we're greatly limited when we follow what we see. And then because we're conditioned to use mind and thought over heart feel, then all of a sudden we depend on mentality, which again, as I say, creates a vicious cycle loop that enhances your chances of instability, which means mental illness, and also increased cardiovascular disease. I've just done some posts recently talking about grounding, right? So when they ground somebody, they earth somebody. And what I mean by ground, you take somebody's shoes and socks off and you go barefoot in the earth, right? You got the most nerve endings on the bottom of your feet because you're absorbing negative ionization from the earth, which it gets that through lightning hitting the crust of the earth and absorbing that. And when they do that, it shifts off negative ion, even though it's called negative, that's the good stuff. Positive ionization is the stuff that creates inflammation in the body, right? And congestion in the body, not flow. So when they took somebody's blood, right, and then they put it on a microscope, they look at the red blood cells of someone that's ungrounded. I hope you're really enjoying this. Please comment. I want to see comments. Any questions as well? We'll get to the products, but this gives you insight because these enable grounding. Because I want to talk about these. And this, as I say, the topic is about how this can help with your general well-being. Right? Now, they took the blood sample of someone that's ungrounded, and when they look at the red blood cells, they're stacked on top of each other, which means that blood is thick. It's thick blood. So what the medical term is viscosity. Okay, when we look at the measure of how thin or thick the blood, because you don't want your blood thick because it loses its ability to flow, right? To circulate oxygen to tissue, nutrients to tissue. Okay, and as I mentioned earlier, right, illness is caused by congestion, obstruction, and blockage to flow. Right, so and a lot of people hardly get grounded. They don't connect with the earth. Right, we've got shoes on all the time, or we're up in buildings. The further we go upwards, the more inflamed and congested the body becomes. But at the same time, we believe we come from the stars. We come from space. Well, the further we go up into space, the more demineralized and degenerative we get. So that can't be right. Again, a clue. That's what I call a clue. Okay. When we're more grounded and connected to the earth, we're more healthier, more rejuvenative, regenerative we can provide. So why those red blood cells stack on top of each other like poker chips is because many of the red blood cells have lost their negative ion charge. And for just the fleeting 3 or 4 of them that have it, all the others migrate to it and they stick to it because they want that negative charge. That's their natural state. Okay, talking about before, right? Our natural state. We want to facilitate our natural state, which is a state of being. Okay? Being in the heart. Not being up here, but in the heart. Right? They ground those people for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and then they take their blood sample again. And what they find is those red blood cells aren't clumped together anymore. They're free floating because they've all got a negative charge now, negative ion charge. Okay? Now, what that does is it provides flow to the body. It provides a state to the body to allow the body to work at its highest potential. Okay, there's a lot of science about that now, right? Back in the days, in the decades in the late 60s, it was tree huggers, right? And people were ridiculed for that, right? Hippies, going barefoot everywhere. Well, science is always behind, right? Isn't it? But there's a lot of science to show, that there's something about this. Now, when we open our heart, right, get away from the head and the mind, right, but as I've mentioned before, when we use heart and feel as our pathway, we don't use mentality, and hence we can't have mental illness. Now, we also create super grounding when we get our heart open, right? Grounding is good enough, right, when we ground on the earth, but if you want grounding that's 100 times even more potent than that, you get your heart open and you facilitate more of your light, more of your consciousness. What are our Tensor products do? It does that. It gets more of your light, your consciousness, gets your heart more open to provide that state, right? But as I must say, these are training wheels, because if you can master the ability to get your heart open and maintain it to be open, and you get to a point where you probably don't need these anymore. But as I say, these are training wheels to encourage and get you to that place. Okay. Because like a lot of things, right? When somebody buys a pendulum, I'm going to learn how to pendulum and dowse. And they go, oh yeah, it's got to be a precise pendulum. It's got to be a good pendulum. But after a while, you realize it's not the pendulum, it's you. The pendulum is just an extension of you. It's a training wheel to realize what your true potential is and capabilities. Same with the Tensor technology. Okay. So, these products work on all sorts of things, right? So grounding, as I said, heart disease, number one killer. Why is heart disease the number one killer? Most people go, oh, it's because of our diet. That's not the number one cause. Okay. And they'll go, oh, yeah, well, smoking. Well, you look at some of the people that have lived the longest, they didn't necessarily eat healthy diets, all of them. There's a lot of people that lived over 100, 110, that smoked all their life, drank alcohol all their life. So it wasn't really about what they were putting in the body. It's about the reason why they did those things. It came from them. It always does. It's about you. It's not about things you bring in. If you smoke and then you always hear that it's not good for your health, and then you believe in that, and then you're at a conflict with yourself because I keep smoking but I shouldn't be, that's the worst thing for your health. Is it really about the cigarette? No, it's about the conflict that you're providing yourself. Now, if you're smoking or you're drinking because it makes you happy, you're joyful, all the things that sustain you, I feel a sense of love because I know who I am, I'm not trying to shun away from the person that I authentically am, then you create a state where things that you bring in, whether it's smokes or alcohol, don't harm you. That's the power of you. Okay. When I've got into this technology, I've realized that now all of a sudden I don't have to be as strict on my diet. Things I couldn't eat before, now I can. Things I couldn't drink before, now I can. Because it wasn't about that, it was about me. Okay. These tools are about facilitating infinite potential and capabilities that you have within you. Okay, because it's about you. Okay. So when we create this open heart, so what's the number one killer? What's the number one cause of heart disease? Humans not opening their hearts. They're closed. Why? Because we're taught and conditioned to use mind thought as our primary discernment method, our guide for a lifetime, which compromises the heart. Right? At the origin of the conflict of every human is that we've got two forms of discernment coming through to us all the time. That's thought and what we intuitively, instinctively feel. And they never align. They never agree on each other. But at the same time, we were taught that the heart and the mind play for the same team. They're both us. So if they're both us, why don't they agree? It's because they're not playing for the same team. They're not both you. One of them's you and one's not. And what we find at Truly Holistic, consistently through the years, every day, that somebody comes to me because they need a change, in their health or something, or manifestation ability, abundance, these sorts of things. What do we see? Someone that is letting mentality forge their experience, using mind and thought as their discernment method, which they feel conflicted, they feel confused, they don't have the clarity, they feel heavy in the body, whether it's weight of the world on the shoulders, pressure on their chest, or lethargy through the body, and that's gravity, which comes from mind, okay, being too much mind orientated. And 45 minutes later, we get them out of the mind, we get rid of thought, we get rid of these mentalities, we get their heart open, we facilitate more of their light that comes through the heart into the body. All of a sudden, 45 minutes later, they have clarity, they feel calm, they feel more connected with themselves, they have a smile on their face, they feel lighter. 45 minutes later. Now, if you go to a medical doctor, right, and you go to see them, do you really feel better when you leave compared to when you went in? No, nothing changes. But sessions here, you change within minutes, within half an hour, within 45 minutes. And it's clear to see. Why? Because we shifted you away from something that you're not and removed all these embodiment of energies outside of you that is not you. We relinquish those and we facilitate more of you through the pathway that is you, which is not mind thought, the heart feel. Okay. These products will support that. Okay. So, we know the remedy of heart disease. We know the cause to the effect of heart disease, whether it's arrhythmias, whether it's blood pressure problems, whether it's occlusions or occluded arteries, right, which then lead to a myocardial infarction, which is the name they give for a heart attack. So on and so on in regards to heart disease. We know what the cause to the effect is in cancer. We know that because this is what we work on. We focus on the cause to the effect. It's a very truly holistic, facilitates modality that's very authentic. Okay, very authentic. We're not just gonna. Does that mean that you should not be taking things that work just on the effective? No, they have their role, they have their purpose and their play in the situation. But you should never let your eye off the ball in regards to providing, a greater sense of what the cause is to that effect, and that's what we do here at Truly Holistic. So let's get into the products. Okay, so make sure, if you're seeing this for the first time or seeing me for the first time, make sure to check my Facebook page and every day essentially we're putting up free information, insights about all sorts of things, heart disease, mental illness, just learning more about you, which makes life a hell of a lot more exciting, right? Isn't it? Because generally, for a lot of people, and I know probably a lot of people watching me now, this is not you I'm talking to about, but for the general public, it's, their world becomes what they're told the world is through informants that mold how that delivery of that information is put to you. So does that mean that's what is and authentic? No. It's put in a way that then portrays an illusion that you then believe in. Right? So I'm all about letting go of the outside stuff. Use your discernment of your heart and what feels right, which is just, it sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? And the heart is about simplicity. Always has been. Always about simplicity. And why I think a lot of people find it hard to just grasp simple principles that, the heart provides is because we've been so used to overcomplicating things from the mind and through thought and through mentality. So let's get into some of the tools here. I'm going to show you, obviously, that tool I showed you first, which is a halo. We call this a halo. We call it the ease halo, E-A-S-E, which, when we look at the word ease, right, is to feel at ease, which is the word to feel at peace with yourself. Right? And I'm going to phrase it that way because we could talk about world peace. But you know why there's conflict in the world, right? Because a majority of individuals that make up a collective we call humanity are conflicted inside them. And when we use our creative process of attention-intention, we project what we have within us out into the world. Again, a clue. Everything we see out there is a clue about what's happening within us, how we're applying ourselves. And of course, the mind is going to externalize your viewpoint of reality, which means not to look at what you're doing, right? To get distracted in the highly stimulated world that is today. And again, another post I did, right, is that I feel like every day, the day that the world is being adapted to perceive everybody has ADHD. Because we're just so scattered. Why? Because the mind is steering humanity's ship. It's forging it. That's not our path. We were never supposed to walk that path. Okay. So this is very important because, we make it as a halo. So you just sit on top of your head like that, right? It's great for people that, have a lot of thoughts, fight or flight, a lot of chatter, mind chatter, a lot of thought, which is always not allowing you to provide your natural state, which is a state of being, which is very, very much associated to gaining a meditative state, right? People practice meditation to try and silence the chatter, the thought, the mind chatter. Okay? And it's interesting that they call meditation mindfulness. It's nothing to do about the mind, meditation. Why it's called mindfulness is because we try and label what meditation is from the mind, from thought, which is the very thing that's causing us needing meditation. What a vicious loop in itself, right? I was talking to someone the other day, and I go, look, a lot of people that have been practicing meditation for years, and included in this, and what I'm going to talk about, is they do meditation, they feel amazing, but when they go back into the world, they go back into a discernment method that unravels everything they've achieved in that meditative state to mean that they have to keep going back to meditate, which is a vicious cycle. You want to provide something that you don't have to do that meditative state every day, meditation. So I always say, okay, what do we learn from when we are in a meditative state? We feel amazing, right? Feel, I'm going to emphasize that, not thought, not think, feel. Because meditation, a meditative state, when we gain that, it's not about the mind, it's about bypassing the mind and its thoughts and dropping into our heart, which is where, that's our home, that's our natural, innate state, intelligence, guide, is the heart, and feeling into things, not thinking things. Okay. So we learn from a couple of simple aspects of that, and we apply it to a lifestyle, which means you would never have to meditate ever again. That's more sustainable. The other way is not sustainable because you just like, as I mentioned before, right, the management of mental illness, right? I'm going to manage my mental illness I'm doing while I still forge the same creative process that made me get mental illness to begin with. It's just crazy. It's ridiculous. But again, you need to know the cause to the effect, right? To have another option, and this is what we provide here. So this is great. We make it in a halo. In fact, I placed this on my son's head yesterday or the day before. And I didn't tell him about what the energetic was or anything like that, or give him any information about it. I just put it on his head. And straight away he goes, I feel more relaxed. And I go, well, that's exactly what it's supposed to do. Right? That sense of just relax, take the weight of the world off our shoulders. To feel at ease, to feel at comfort. Right? Because if we're not in our heart, right, we're up here all day. We are away from our home, and the word home is associated with the word to feel at comfort, to feel at ease. Right? So a lot of people are living their life day to day, moment to moment, and they never feel a sense of ease. They're at unease, they're at conflict with themselves all the time. Okay? We know what the root of that is, the origin of that, and we know how to go about that. These products play a huge role in that and supporting that and helping you with that. So that specific qubit, as I was mentioning earlier in the live, is called the ease qubit. So it brings through frequencies or energies that support with that aspect. Now, we don't just make a halo out of that energy. We also make other things. For example, this tensor ring, which is a double twist, beautiful, right? This is made with that ease qubit as well, that ease energetic, right? It's essentially, half the size of that one, right? Because the measurements work in ratios, right? So you can go half of that, or you can go another half of that, and it produces that energetic. Now, this ring goes with this product. It's pretty cool looking, right? Now, if we put it like this, you can see it's like a star, right? Or a hexagon, right? If we put the lines together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? We know the grid network of being here is based on a hexagon, right? When we look at the collective, we call it a hive mind. Well, when we look at a beehive, what's the geometry that's made of a beehive? whole bunch of hexagons. Okay. When water, a snowflake, when it's crystalline form, what is it? It's based on a hexagon template. Okay, so we know a lot about that. But coming back to this, what this also looks like is the Earth, right? The Earth with a North Pole, South Pole, right? It's an electromagnetic field, right? That comes out like that and it goes through the poles and goes out either side. Okay. I talked about grounding and earthing before, right? Okay. So, when we connect more with the Earth, we were never supposed to leave the Earth. We don't come from up there. It's ridiculous. How we got here, and this is very much connected to what I'm talking about, but also this product. The first instance, you need to know what I mean by you. Because if you believe that your physicality, this body is you, well, no, that's not you. Because this, as I say, this is a rental. It's like, living a lifetime of 60, 70, 80 years is nothing, right? And really, time's illusion anyway. Time's a human construct. It's like putting a jacket on for 60, 70, 80 years. Is that jacket you? No, it's not, right? What I mean by you are the energy, the consciousness, the intelligence behind the thing. Because I say, when someone passes over, dies, right? The interface is there to be seen, but there's no one driving it anymore. Okay, if we see it as a rental, no one's behind the wheel anymore, right? So you are that energy, right? So let's come back, to what I was trying to mention. How did you get here to have a life, to have an experience? People will go, well, you were born, right? Your mother and father came together, right? And conceived you, right? Yeah, the body was formed through that, which is the vehicle. But still, as I say, it's not you. How you got here was when the embryo was forming, and when the heart formed, you as the soul came through the heart. And that was at the point when then you were going to use that embryo, which is still that interface or rental being formed. You're going to have that for a lifetime. But you came through the heart. The heart is a portal, right? This is why we say a heart, get the heart open. A lot of people go, what do you mean by open heart? Well, when we see it, and as I say, what we see with our visible eyes is 0.0035% of what can be seen. So you can't go by that. The heart's the most important muscle in the body, right? It has a rhythm and a rate to it. It beats. And it just doesn't beat da-da-da-da. It's rotating, which is connected to a vortex. Okay. Now, the formal geometry of flow is a vortex, right? It's a bit like, let's take this, right, which is not a Tensor product. It's one of those little cleaning tools, right? It's a little brush that you go down a tube and you spin it around like that to clean all the gunk in the tube, right? To keep it clean and clear. Okay. Now your heart is a portal that creates a vortex. This is where, nature's, how we talked about hexagons before, is also bound to a vortex, right? We see it in Fibonacci sequence, we see it in the golden ratio, we see, we're talking about a spiral. Okay. When you look down the barrel of vortex, it's a spiral. So for example, right, with this, right, and if I point it that way, right, and it goes like that, I'm creating a spiral. We're creating a spiral. Okay. So if you go down a tube and you're cleaning, right, and you're cleaning all the stuff, right, and look at and perceive this as the arteries of your cardiovascular system, right? We know that's what takes someone out, heart disease. When your arteries are occlude, right? Which means a lack of flow, a lack of that vortex, that spiral. What gives the spiral vortex? When the heart's open, right? Again, what I mentioned before. When we're not grounded when we're up here, but when we drop into the heart, get the heart open, we're grounded. Why? Because we present more of our light to come through, which is the carrier wave of that is that spiral vortex. And like that brush, it keeps the arteries clean and clear, like that tube. Okay? Right? So we call this the heart harmonizer, right? Because in Tensor Technology community circles, there's a thing called a tensor field harmonizer, right? Tensor, because it uses tensor technology, right? This is creating a toroidal field, right? Just like the Earth with its electromagnetic field in the poles, right? So, and the other word is harmonizer, right? It harmonizes. I talked about when we're up here, we're conflicted, right? When we bring conflict back into balance, what we do, we harmonize it. Our heart has a natural ability to bring things back into balance. When we're up here, we bring it into unbalance, right? Duality, two opposing opposites. When we get back in the heart, we bring it into balance, okay? So all the tensor harmonizers out there that people make, you know, they love them because what do? They change our environment, right? The Slim, who brought Tensor Technology in to begin with, mentioned about that it cleaned the air pollution, right? It brought animals that are in nature, it flourished. Nature just flourished. And I'll tell you why. Because your natural state, which is to get your heart open, a state of being, aligns with nature. Nature is a remembrance of your natural state. That's why when somebody goes on a holiday and they go for a nice walk through a forest, or they're walking on the beach, or they go for a dip in the ocean, man, I feel really good. It's the sunshine, it's the water. No, it's not that. Those things provide a remembrance that you allow yourself to no longer get into complexity, into thought. You drop into the heart and you provide your natural state. That's what's going on. Okay. Again, it's about you. Okay. So this mimics what your heart does. The heart's the original harmonizer. Okay. So for years and years, we didn't make this type of tool because my guide was just telling me, get people in their hearts. That's the original harmonizer. You don't need this as long as you get your heart open. But what I've realized over years and years working with clients is it's not so easy to get somebody's heart open and to maintain it open, because humanity is so mind controlled. And that's not something controlling your mind. The mind is the controlling mechanism itself. Okay. So we started making them. And we made it with an energetic that is very, very connected to the heart itself. So a lot of people, and then we bring this, which is the ease qubit, which is peace. And you have that, and you just sit that on the ring, and you place it somewhere in your home, right? And it expands out infinitely. It's got infinite reach. And it's bringing things into balance, and it's bringing in the energetics of peace and love. Because love, which sustains you, unconditional love is what is felt. It comes from the heart. Conditional love, which is not love in its authentic form, comes from mind and thought. Okay. Conditional love is when we believe that if we need love or connection, we need to gain that from something outside of ourselves. That was a lie. That was a manipulation that the mind told you. That creates dependency, that creates addiction, that creates victimhood, that creates all these issues, envy, jealousy, that are not good for us. Love originates from within you. It's there. It's waiting. It's there for you. Your soul's there waiting to guide the life you deserve. But you just need your heart open to allow that. You need to allow that. Okay. So really, they have it stand like that, and that's how you stand it. But to give you a visualization of what really is happening, it's like that. Your heart. like that, right? And as I say, come back to this, right? It's like that, right? So it'll be there and rotating, right? Because it's like a propeller blade. It's creating that spiral, that vortex coming through the heart. Okay, so this is a wonderful product. Everyone that buys these loves these. So I've got one right next to the camera that I'm looking at now. It's there all the time. Love it. You can also put all your other products in there and also broadcast those out. You can put intention notes in here and that will broadcast it out as well. Wonderful product. It's called the Heart Harmonizer and Ease Ring. It's on my product store. trulyholistic.net/products. You'll see it there. Same as the Ease Halo. Another great product for a lot of people would get so much benefit from that as well. So I showed you before some bracelets that we make. Same bracelet, this one. This one's with a thicker gauge, 8 gauge. We usually use 8 or 10. This brings through an energetic that enhances physical strength, right? You know, as I mentioned before, right? When we talk about qubits, right, energetics, we're talking about gene expression, which is opening and expanding your infinite potential and capabilities, which include increased physical strength and balance. Okay? So we see when we wear a bracelet, you can also get this in a ring pendant, this particular measurement, that when you wear it, you physically feel stronger. You can lift up stuff, and sometimes with certain things, it feels like half the weight. Okay, so these are wonderful for all sorts of people. Can be great for elderly, right, that are starting to lose their strength. They're losing, especially with grip strength, you know, and the use of their hands, right, which we just take for granted for a lifetime. But also, you know, they lose their balance, right? They need walking frames. They need, you know, the gait's not as good and balanced and reassured. So these, and also for athletes, right? So these are wonderful products. These are called the lightning pendant or bracelet. You'll see those on the product store too. They're wonderful. I quite often wear mine. You can see mine's quite worn and patina, and I've been wearing that for quite some time. I wear that a lot, that one. Especially when I'm being quite, you know, physical and having to do work around the house or lifting stuff. This next product, this incorporates sacred geometry. This product, there's a couple of them, right? Which has the triquetra in the middle, right? You can see the triquetra right there, which is the Vesica Pisces. So we've got a Vesica Pisces here, and then here. So there's 3 of them, right? Tri-3. And obviously 3 circles that overlap too. Now, what this product, again, this is a different energetic. This energetic brings through the energy of the pineal gland or third eye. Right? So for people that are wanting to open their third eye, activate their pineal gland for not just for spirituality reasons or insight reasons, but also to help sleep, right? Because it's the pineal gland that secretes melatonin, right, to initiate sleep and maintain sleep. So we make this product in this size, which is called an insight activator or activation, but we also make one half that size that you can wear as a pendant. We've made those when we've had silver wire. We've made a few of those in silver as well as copper, which you can also place directly over the pineal and third eye. And I can remember the first time I wore the pendant version of this, and it was amazing. The clarity I felt in my head was unbelievable when I first put it on. Now, one thing when you wear these products, you know, whether it's a pendant or a bracelet, but you know, in my experience, especially when wearing a pendant, because it's, you know, something that you wear and you just wear all the time, you know, is that after a while you don't feel the effects as much. Now, that doesn't mean that's not working anymore. It means that you're becoming acclimatized to those new energies that are being facilitated. These new possibilities and capabilities are now coming through. Okay, that now becomes your baseline, right? You're shifting into a more expansion or expansive baseline. Um, and It was amazing. The clarity in my head was amazing. It was just like just opened up, and I felt like my pineal, my third eye, was quite open already, but it took it to another level. So it's often called the pineal, right? That's what science calls it, a pineal gland, which is inside your head, in the brain, and the ancients called it the third eye, right? So another eye. So this is where this geometry comes into play, because our place of attention, right, which is how we apply our energy, right? Where attention goes, energy flows, which means that implies that what we place our attentional focus on, we invest our energy into that, but also we create a bridge with that thing we're looking at where we could be taking on its energies as well, right? So that really gives a deep discernment to our attention, because if our attention is based on the worries, concerns, and fears of our life, then one, we're feeding more into that, which means we'll experience more of that. And secondly, that becomes our physiology, which means then it's going to cause illness in the body. Okay. Now, our place of attention is all based on three eyes: the two eyes to see and the one eye to know. Right. So this is where that comes in, right? The two duality eyes, two, and the one eye, the singularity eye, that one, right? But the key is getting them all balanced. When the way we're conditioned, right, seeing is believing, is we just follow this, and because mentality is guiding your ship, your third eye pineal gland is blocked. It's closed off, right? Which greatly limits how you perceive reality, but how you understand reality, right? Because these eyes don't even get close to seeing 1% of reality, right? This is where this fills in the rest of the 99.9965%. Okay, but it's not going to be through sight. It's not going to be through thought. It's going to be through feel. Feel is a sense that is not limited. It's connected. What you feel is not even connected to this reality. It's connected to a multitude of realities that you as a soul share your energy signature with, right? Are experiencing on a multitude of levels. Okay. Now, thought, right, which comes from the mind, and what we see is greatly limited, right? So if you want to know more about the cause to effect and experiencing this life in its full potential, you don't want to depend on thought, and you don't want to depend on mentality, and you don't want to depend on what the two duality eyes show you. Okay. So this is wonderful, right? So this one you place under your pillow, right? So it can help you with your sleep, but also, of course, you can place it on that area like that too, to just make sure that your pineal third eye is open and that it's balancing, right? Because the key is balance. As I said, right, the heart brings things into balance. The heart's dance partner is the pineal gland. They are your guides, right? The heart's behind the steering wheel. This is directing left or right like a rally driver, right? But when the mind's behind the steering wheel, the mind closes this off and replaces it with mentality. Mentality is the dance partner to the mind, okay? But that then locks you out because it makes you into something you're not instead of what you authentically are, okay? As I say, as the arc of the human is becoming something the world needs you, or your mother needed of you, your father needed of you, as you get older as a parent, what your children need of you, all these human roles, that then you become a byproduct of everything else, and what gets left out is you, okay? Because what you authentically are is a soul, and you're a soul that has a specific purpose and road and path that we can never lose sight of. Okay? In fact, everybody else will get compromised because you don't facilitate who you are. Very important. So go and check that out in the product store. Great product. Love it. As I say, you get it in that size, but you can also get it half that size, which is what we call the Insight Pendant. Go and check it out. Now, another product I'm going to show you is a set of 5 rings, which is the element tensor ring set. What I mean by element: earth, air, water, fire, ether. Right? So that's them there. Right? They come in a 10 gauge. Some people might have them in even a heavier duty 8 gauge. Generally 10 gauge. And each ring is one of the elements. Right? So you get the earth, air, water, fire, ether. Now, the earth is connected to ground, right? As I mentioned before, right? Is that when we connect with the earth more, and as I said, the mind will tell us, oh, we come from space and we have to go and explore space. We're not supposed to be here. And all the people will go, I don't feel at home here. Well, you're not feeling at home here because you haven't got your heart open. Okay. The mind is always externalizing your viewpoint of reality. But what we know is that the more we go up in the air, go up into the atmosphere, go further up, and then go into space, is we demineralize faster, we degenerate faster, which is a clue that that's not our natural state. It's not where we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be on the ground, Earth, but we can go even further. Where's the only other place we can go further? Within. Right, so when we open our heart, right, and we facilitate what's within, our grounding enhances. We get super grounded. We can take it to another level. Okay. Now with those, it's a set that you get, and you not only get the 5 rings, you also get 3 charts. You get a dowsing chart, which is called the element chart, right? And that has got earth, air, water, fire, ether in it, right? So you can, let's say you're dealing with a problem, like a health problem, whether it's pain in the knee or something in the digestive system, you can dowse to see what element is needed for that situation. Let's say you dowse on there and it goes to earth, right? You get the earth ring and then you just place it over that area of the body. Okay. Now, it also says on here, this is called the ascension map, which is a map of your consciousness, right? Which is really your true oneness. The network we call is of you as the soul. Now, earth is ground, okay? Now, the next element, which goes even deeper within, is air, right? And that is self-awareness. Why we chose self-awareness is because in meditation, you know, the 2 conceptual principles of gaining a meditative state is 1, closing your eyes, right? Why do we do that? So your attention, coming back to that, right, what I was talking about, is no longer feeding energy to distraction. Your energy, the only place your energy can go is stay with you. Okay. This is why wild animals, right, like a deer or whatever in the wild, they might get hit by a car or get injured. It finds a safe place and just sleeps. Why? Because it closes its eyes, doesn't run around, which is giving off energy. It closes its eyes, so therefore it realizes it just holds energy into its space of its body for it to heal, which is a state of being. We could learn so much from all these other animals, but from here, from the mind out of ego, we believe we're top of the tree. No, we're not. Okay, that's the ego. That's this. What comes through the mind? That's not you, the soul, massaging your ego to forge your path to something that supports it, not you. Okay. A lot of our health problems, a lot of the suffering we're going through, humanity right now, is based on an identity crisis, and there's an identity crisis right now in humanity, and that's because we are allowing a form of discernment in the mind and its thoughts to guide our path, which is not us. It's not us. Okay? The other step, right? Close your eyes. Focus on your breath, right? Which is, yes, your respiratory system. But when you focus on your breath, what are you doing? You're bringing your focus back to you, which is to gain your self-awareness back. Now, what is that? What's the other word for your respiratory system? It's your airway. right? Air, self-awareness. Way, because you're connecting more into your consciousness that is guiding your path, your way. Airway, okay? Next one, water, which is flow, okay? When we see water in nature, it's the physical embodiment of flow. Water just wants to move, right? We know that when water sits in one place for too long, what does it do? It gets dirty and smelly, right? Use that analogy for the body. But if it's flowing, the faster it flows, the more cleaner that water is. Why? What's the formal geometry of flow? Vortex. Keeps things clean and clear, right? Clean and clear. Okay. Fire. Renew. Okay. An example of fire that you might have experienced is having a fever. Okay. You're taught that a fever's there because there's a pathogen in the body. Half truth with that. There's something foreign in the body that the intelligence of the body is trying to let you become aware of. It doesn't have to be a microbe. What a fever is a flooding of the body, of bringing flow back to the body. Because if somebody is living their life from mind thought, which means they're providing a state that promotes congestion, not flow, after a period of time, you get sick, and the body needs to get your body back to its natural state of flow. Fever will do that. That's fire. Okay. A lot of people go, oh, I've got to do something about this fever because I'm sick. No, they don't realize that what they're dealing with fever is actually a healing phase. You running around thinking you can do everything, do all the time, that's sickness. That's sickness because that's not your natural state. Okay? So fire's great for burning old attachments, things that are occluding the body. It's a very expansive energy. And I felt that. Pretty expansive, pretty powerful. And then the last one's ether. Ether means new beginnings, right? So we're talking about really at this level ascension, right? Because now we're really getting to the depths of where we come from, right? Our origin is a consciousness and an energy, and all of a sudden it's new beginnings for you. Life is not like you once thought it was or were conditioned to perceive as. It's something that's ever-changing and beautiful and transformational. It's wonderful. And that's the biggest ring out of the 5 is the ether. Beautiful light, beautiful energy. Again, when you have this set, you'll get what I mean by how it feels. It's this is incredible set. It's called Tensor. The Element Tensoring set. Go and check that on the product store, treeholistic.net/products/. The other charts you get with it, it's just a chart talking about when we get our heart open, present more of these elements, right, which are levels of ourselves as a consciousness, our auric field expands out. And our auric field is our atmosphere. Just like when they say about Earth, the Earth's a planetary body, right? And the atmosphere is to protect it from the harshness of space. As I mentioned earlier, right? The more we go up into the atmosphere and towards space, we demineralize and degenerate. So that's obviously not good for us because we're not supposed to come from there. That's the void. That's where the mind comes from. The heart facilitates the quantum. That's where we come from. The quantum's not that way. It's within us. It's back this way. Okay. So when we open more of that, we're providing the quantum aspects of ourselves. Our field expands out. But if we're up here and our heart closes off, then our auric field collapses in. Now, fast collapsing of an auric field can be a panic attack, right? Because when a panic attack, you're like really panicking because actually what's happening is your field, like a room, the 4 walls of a room are caving in on you. You feel it. Because as I say, feel's connected to everything. Right? We can't see that with our eyes because our eyes are greatly limited, but we can feel it. We can feel the level of where our field is. That's an important aspect because the body then becomes the discernment to tell you the state of the field, which is you. Is it expansive? Is it collapsed? If it's collapsed, your body will give off a lot of symptoms. And those symptoms is the body talking to you to provide an awareness, drop back in the heart, become more self-aware of how you apply your energy. Then all of a sudden, once you do that, those symptoms will go away. We've really we've misinterpreted, misunderstood the body for too long because we've followed the mind and its thoughts. We need to go back to home and we need to feel into the body, because generally the symptoms that we experience through the body are not thought, they are felt. Okay? They're felt. Okay? And obviously you get the map in its entirety, the ascension map, to give you a greater sense of what you're working with the element tensor ring set. And this is you. This is your field, right? Which is depicted as a tree that's rooted in the ground. Right. Anyway, I hope you really enjoyed this live. We're going to stop it there. Please feel free to share it on your page, or any other page that you feel people would really get some good out of this. Become aware of also the tensor technologies that we provide, the modalities that truly facilitates. Because humanity needs to be turned around. Humanity, for the most part, are mind-oriented, and that is not the way forward. Trust me. We need to get everyone back in the heart. Because everyone needs to realize who they authentically are before we can feel into and experience what we believe and what we actually do need, instead of what we think we need. And there's a difference with that. Until next time, catch you later.